Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here. And what I wanted to really start off with is something which is quite anti-establishment. When Marceline asked me to present on corporate involvement and corporations' involvement in actually eradicating illiteracy or bringing in primary education, I think there's a clear dilemma. I don't think corporations today are designed to play the role of solving this purpose. And while there is contribution that they can do, the job doesn't actually hold its foot in the areas of corporations or companies. However, having said that, there is certainly contribution that these organizations and corporations can do. So let me walk you through this. And once my deck is on, yeah, let me just start with. How do I move this? Okay. I'm gonna, this thing's not working.
The right button.
Yeah. Just bear with me for a minute. Okay. While they're fixing this technology, let me just take the opportunity to introduce someone who's sitting in the audience, who's one of the persons who's helped me actually make this deck and pull this together for you. I have no doubt in saying that she's one of the top researchers in Malaysia, someone who's I think we all need to be very proud of. And she's sitting somewhere where I can't see because of the light, but that's Anita. Anita, could you just stand up? I'm just putting up some pictures, and while these pictures are meant to evoke some emotions, but at the end of the day, children are the same anywhere in the world. And no matter if you're green, yellow, blue, brown, black, it doesn't matter. You're exactly the same. You have the same habits. You have the same issues, the same problems, the same kind of nagging. However, when you start growing up, things start changing. And no longer that whole cuteness remain. And I think the world, I think more recently has started dividing people into twos, and I'll get to that in a minute. But importantly, there is a role and a responsibility that really defines the purpose of why we exist. And this is a bit spiritual, it's a bit about religion, but I'm not going to go there. But as we all grow, and we all can relate back to the eras of this time break, when you're 0 to 3, 4 to 6, 7 to 12, 13 to 18, 19 to 49, it's the same person. Growing to becoming 50 to 59 and then 60 plus. You know, you all of a sudden realize what's happening, right? It's all of us who are at that particular age bracket at a particular point in time. But I've blackened out this age bracket of 19 to 49, and I've done that for a purpose. Because I think most of us here, and I'm sure all of us, if not most of us, are in that area of 19 to 49. And we have a huge responsibility, what I call the primary responsibility of taking the 19 to 14 to be empowered. We have been empowered by the society, by religion, by culture, by the way our economic system are built, to play our role to build and educate this whole group of people who are below the age of 18. That's our primary responsibility. And if we don't do that right, it doesn't matter if you're a corporation or if you're an individual, we're going to fail. And we will fail the next generation. And if we fail, it has far-reaching implications to building families, neighborhoods, and societies. There is a secondary responsibility we also have, and this is a real tricky one, and that's on people who are older than us. And while we tend to think that our responsibility is not primed there, it's growingly becoming a very debatable area and a challenging area. And this is where, again, some cultures, religion come and play a role, but the world wants the 19 to 49 to take far bigger responsibilities, both for people below them and for people also elder to them. And as we start growing older, we start realizing the best thing we can get is not money, it's not jobs, it's not fame. It's to having our children around who can actually support us, either financially or non-financially. So it's an interesting area. We're not going to focus on that today. We're really going to focus on what the MDG is. The divide is really real, and I think some of the presentations were very, very evident of it. It's very, very real. There's one part of the world which is enjoying and partying and having a great time. There's another part of the world who is deprived, who is completely underprivileged. And let me just show you one video which highlights this divide in a way. Can you play the video?
Most of my prescription I got to wait like 4 days.
It's an attempt to just tell you that the divide is huge. And I don't think I need to really amplify or exemplify the fact that the divide is huge. But there's a part of our brothers and sisters who are practically dying. And while this covers many other MDGs around poverty and hunger, I'll tell you how it's linked to education. But the world is not fair, and the world is moving towards even greater unfairness. And I think there is somebody who's got to do something about it. Let me take you to this chart. Education, these are some top 10 countries which have the highest level of education. I've chosen these 10 countries because they are the 10 richest countries in the world. It's not by default they've become rich. It's not by default Sub-Sahara is poor. It's purely literacy. It's education. It's as simple as that. If you did a regression analysis, your wealth is directly correlated to education. And once you have education, you will have better quality of life. You'll have higher employment opportunities, you'll have higher income, you'll have more wealth, and you won't have those pictures. You won't have those pictures, and it takes me back to what Karl Marx also said, and I'm not a socialist at all, but what Karl Marx said is if you lead capitalism the way it does, it's being led now, this whole element of greed will lead to what you just saw. And I think that's where this world is moving to, and we've got to find a way of fixing it. In terms of education and how it makes a difference, very simple, 3 things. It reduces poverty. So once you're educated, you're going to have something to eat, and you're going to be able to feed somebody. Our minds have been designed to be, and mortality rates will decline. It's simple. And you take a correlation of these 3 elements with a lack of education or high education in any country of the world, you'll see a very high correlation. So this is the latest report that came out of UNESCO, is as latest as 19th of September. And what they're saying is, and a bit talks about women education. Education saves mothers' lives. Mother's education saves children's life. Maternal education improves child nutrition. Education increases job opportunities. Education reduces child marriages. Education reduces early births. Educated people are more tolerant, and they create better societies. More equal education leads to faster growth, and then education leads to more concern about the environment. I mean, it's so linked. Nothing in this life, even for us to get up from here, from this Putrajaya Convention Center, and to drive back home, it's all about education. How to drive back, which road to take, how to drive with a discipline. I'm going to skip this next video. I'll skip this next video. I'll move directly to the MDG, which is what we talk about. United Nations did an MDG in 2000 and said the 7 to 12-year-old age bracket people, we need to ensure, they defined a real purpose and said that the world committed to ensure that illiteracy is eradicated and planned to ensure universal of the 7 to 12-year-old achieving primary education. That's a clear goal they highlighted to the world. And they said every single 7 to 12-year-old in the world has to get primary education. Because remember, these 7 to 12 years old will eventually become preteens and teens and then adults, and then they'll create societies and they'll create the world. Let me just walk you through one picture, one video of this girl called Esther. And it's a story, it's a heartening story, but I just want to set into perspective what are these 7 to 12 years are living with? What are the real issues that they're living with? And I'm really taking an acute example to exemplify what the real issue is. So let me just walk you through this video. It is of this girl called Esther, and her mother is about to die. And she needs to take care of her mother as well as her younger brother. So just take a look at this video, and then we'll end my session with, again, the continuation of this video. So please concentrate on this one. Can I have the video, please?
Esther, anturuhusu ati mwana asikuja. Oisa kapoto kadikidiki. Ombikira porridge. Tuita kumumwisa.
Meka nachirwara ndo achikira. Don't kwa kuwadhiwa. Yakuti moyo wangu ningauda kuchema, nachichema. Musho dzangu nongosara maziso, ngonyarara. Kuti wangona kufa tugosara tega. Kasi ndakatara kuti akangofa topinda tese kuwa. Parece ndaigona.
Hauna nzara.
Njara.
Saka uchanjike.
Hapana. Ninganangana tuwacha. Yatachema.
Akangotanga kuri kuchayeko. Apa sasongotowesi. Angoti mama ndoda kuti akati ndikurutsa ubva achaya. Nikurutsa nekuchaya zvese. Kana dai kuchipatara kwacho akaenda. Mari yacho yekunotenga mushonga handina. Zoti inini ndinotyira upenyu hwangu kuti ndikafa. Vana vangu.
Kata mama, takuru kundichengeta sawa. Asi ningachunga boda, ningachunga kufamba. Busu wa mamangu Mama, that's all you watching the jungata. Jungin that out score. Let me want one number father. Nan do mazaya sanungo garan kakio. Vreku mata sisina sirwa. Ka Dora Rama. I was preparing you one number father.
This is the 7 to 12 years old life, and we're talking about education. We're talking about, I mean, just look at the lifestyle we live in. And I'll tell you, and I've not one Esther. Let me tell you the exact numbers that existed back in 2000. When we said that we need to achieve universal primary education, what it really said is that every child is going to get educated. Just look at Esther's life. Is education a part of her? Who's going to educate her? Her mother's passed away, you know? I mean, just imagine, but great goal. There were 102 million such Esthers in the world. 102 million, which is not a small number. That's 4 times the size of Malaysia. And just imagine these people, when they become older, this is the next generation of the world. And 102 million, if we didn't educate them, we would go into a clear disaster. And that's what we set up as a target. Why is primary education low? I won't go through the details, but one is clearly poor governance of countries and education systems. Poverty. It is for me as a child, as a parent, it's better for me to send my child to work than to educate him, because it's all about cost of opportunity cost, and it's about cultural barriers. And that's where the women part come in. 2015 Millennium Goal. The world said that we will eradicate illiteracy and ensure by 2015 every child in the world would have completed primary education. That's just 2 years from now, actually 1.5 years from now. And there were clear goal posts. You can't probably see this because of the front, but there are clear by-year milestones which are put in place in terms of how many kids will be educated, how many will be left uneducated, and by 2015 we'll get to 0. So let me tell you the scorecard of where we are. In 2000, we said 102 million children were uneducated. In 2012, which was last year, it was meant to be 20 million were supposed to have been left uneducated. We still have 61 million children who are uneducated. And by 2015, it was meant to be 0. And by 2015, it's going to be 56 million. So we've not even done 50% of what the target is. We're significantly behind our target, What drove poor performance? One is clearly aid. So countries who said, we'll give you money, they didn't give money. So these are all aids, pledges made, commitments made. And frankly, you know, they've made the commitments. These are rich countries. But they've got conflicting priorities. So they had to go, at times, give money to sub-Sahara Africa for education. But then on the other hand, they needed to go and attack Iraq as well. And then they needed to attack Afghanistan. And, you know, and there was money which was needing to go either behind some bombs, and then it was all conflict. So the money that was supposed to go to educate them just didn't come through. Second is the whole education aid component was much less than what it was meant to be, it was designed to be. The aid allocation was unfair. Only 30% of the aid actually reached low-income countries. 70% actually went back into countries which probably didn't need the aid. So, you know, why would you want to give money for educating people where there is already education? And then there was debt relief. So a lot of these countries said, okay, fine, we'll give you $500 million for aid, but then, you know, you just clear our debt off, and then it's a debt write-off, and it actually never went to education. So it was all fundamentally, from a structure perspective, flawed, if I may want to use this word. And at the end, this whole capitalism has taught us money-making and ability to be able to have incentives. The key stakeholders had no incentives in this. And their only incentive was the softer side to their lives rather than actual stakes, where there's what's in it for me, which I think John also mentioned. So it was created on the right premises with the wrong plan in order for us to eradicate that, and then you weren't going to get results. You know, don't we do that in our organization? You have a target, but you plan something wrong, you'll never get to your end goal. So that's exactly what really happened. Would we be able to achieve this in 2015? The answer is no. We've missed the target. So what do we do going forward? There's no option but to remain focused on exactly the same goal. That is primary education completion of 100% of the children. There's no second way, there's no secondary way of doing this. And trust me, it's going to continue to increase if we don't do anything about it. Since we missed the 2015 target, what's the right thing to do? Set a new target. And what we are proposing is that it should be 2020. That take this 56 million people, children, and make sure that it's zero by the year 2020. How do we do that? What's our plan to do it? The first thing you do is you break it up into yearly targets, so it's not just a number which is a motherhood number, but it's a clear number which has milestones and KRAs which we need to measure. Second is we need money. And in order to do that, we need $105 billion. Now, sounds a lot. Bill Gates' wealth is more than that. His one man's wealth can educate the world. So it's not a lot of money. It's peanuts. If I just calculate the amount of money that went behind the war in Iraq, or the war in Afghanistan, or the war that the world has been going into, this is peanuts. It's minuscule. So we need to raise $105 billion. And what do we need this for? It's basically for 6 key things. You need to build schools. There aren't schools. You need to have faculty training. You need to have books and materials, operating cost, subsidies from the government, and we need to build awareness programs. Now here's where I mentioned originally to you where it's going to come from. Rich countries are the ones who should give the money because they're the ones who have the money. It should be rich individuals who have the money, they should give the money. Then there are operating corporations. I believe that the way these organizations are designed, their purpose is not to eradicate education. That's not. It's all something that we are asking them on a softer side to do. They're all designed to sell and make money, and that's what they're all about. You know, John was in Coke, I'm in FNN, people have been in different organizations, some of you are in organizations. What's your goal? It's not to eradicate education, eradicate illiteracy. It is to make money. And then once we have made enough money, which normally your budgets are always higher than where we end up meeting, we end up putting it into some corporate social activity. So the corporations, the way they're designed with our current capitalistic model, where your stock market looks at the returns that you give back to the shareholders, is not designed to take this money and put it here. But again, I think it's an integral part of the society and community. We should focus on it. Country policies, community, and public. Let me talk about operating corporations. There are direct things that organizations can do. And these are employee support programs, and I'll talk to you about it, community programs, internal awareness programs, and eradicating child labor. And you have these examples of great companies who do this, and they do it very, very well. But again, it's a drop in the ocean. If I go to Coca-Cola, or if I go to, let's say, McDonald's and ask them how much they're doing, they'll say, of course they're doing. But if I ask them how well are they serving breakfast need state for consumers, or lunch need state for children, I tell you, they will give you answers which will shock all of us. And I think that's the way we are designed. Indirectly, thought leadership. We have the ability to provide that scale that maybe individuals cannot. Build standards. Influence policies and influence government. And I'll walk you through that in a while. Examples of the role that corporations will do. Sponsor schools. And you have companies that sponsor schools and do that very well. And I'll show you an example of Airtel in a minute. Employ children's education program. Do not employ somebody whose children are not being educated. You've got to make it mandatory for them. You know, if they don't educate their children, just make sure they're not employees of your company. Zero tolerance to child labor. And let me just click on this. Zaireen, could you click on this photograph next to child labor? No, child labor. Go back. Go back to the yellow spot. No. Can you click next to here, zero tolerance child labor? Yes, thank you. Thank you. Let me tell you companies who are indirectly engaged in child labor. Remember, these are children. If they didn't do this, they could have gone to school. Urban Outfitters, New Balance, Nike, Marlboro, Gap, Hershey's, Philip Morris, Victoria's Secrets. You know the amount of money we pay for these products? Toys R Us, could you imagine? These are companies who have been implicated with child labor. And here is Hershey's. And you know, chocolates are made out of cocoa, and cocoa is grown in plantations. And the amount of children which are involved in plantation is really not funny. And it's not that Hershey's is doing it themselves. Obviously, they've got third parties and contractors. They themselves would say, look, we don't want to get involved in child labor, but they are being implicated. Philip Morris. Sorry, can you go back to? No. Just go back. Okay, wait. That's fine. So what I'm trying to highlight here is that we should have zero tolerance for. Why do you want to? I wouldn't wear Nike shoes purely because that's where it starts with. I wouldn't go buy toys for children. They're using child labor, full stop. I think there just needs to be zero tolerance by organization. I have no problems if I was appointed as the CEO for Toys R Us to drop my profitability by 30% if need be, if I knew that it was at the cost of child labor. So there are some very direct steps that the organizations can take. There are internal communication value systems that we need to bring in, and the establishment of the whole community program. We can do a lot. I don't think we can solve the problem, as I mentioned to you, but we can do quite a bit. We should indirectly influence the government to keep education as a priority. We should link our income tax to education by the government. We pay the government a lot of money. And all those governments who don't put that money into education, we need to hold them accountable. We need to make it mandatory for them to spend X percentage of the money into education. We really don't. We are too bothered about just paying the tax and then ensure that there's no increase of tax rates. Let's not do that. Influence the ministries in raising standards, government to invest in teacher development programs and relief programs for parents' education children. If I have an organization and I have employees who are going to earn me money and their children are not educated, I need to build programs in there for them to educate their children. If they don't, then I'm really not playing my role correctly as an organization. These are indirect roles that we can play. Let me tell you the overall. Let me give you an example of one example. I'm almost done. Of Airtel, and it's a company from India who's done, I think, fantastic work on some sponsoring school programs. I happen to know a few people who work in Airtel, and I think I could see that pride in them, in that organization doing a lot for the society. Just let's see this video.
I want to be a bank manager in future. I want to be a footballer in my future.
Think about the generations and to say we want to make it a better place for our children and our children's children so that they know it's a better world for them. And think if they can make it a better place.
There's a place in your heart, and I know that it is love. And this place is much brighter than tomorrow.
Airtel recently raised hopes in the children and inhabitants of Himakrom in the Agona Ahanta West district of the Western region when it handed over a newly refurbished 12-unit classroom block to the Ministry of Education to serve the educational needs of the community and 4 other adjoining ones.
Airtel for Omokasi school down Kobodumasi. Na media mo bompa say Yakupam Wama Sanko Fono Omopui Yansuya no more boy.
If some of you remember, we did the project in Odumasi Krobo where we had the school that we renovated. That school, before we renovated it, had a failing grade in the BECE. But after we renovated it, first of all, enrollment in that school was more than 100%. It was oversubscribed, that was one. And at the end of last year, they had a 100% pass in the BECE. So that shows within 1 year of making the changes, the attitudes in the children changed, and then they all passed the BECE.
nobody gives out anything for nothing. So it means we have to work than before. Everybody should put a mechanism in place so that whatever is given us today, we'll be able to pull our way so that we achieve results.
In less than a year of operation in the country, Airtel has contributed to the socio-economic life of the people of Ghana in a manner that shows that they are really the network that truly cares about the communities in which they operate. Airtel, feel free.
If you do this, don't do it for a greed reason. Don't do it because you're going to make money. Just do it because that's the right thing to do. So if you're in an organization, you're in a position to make a decision, don't think of money. These Airtel guys are not going to make any money out of selling mobile phones or cellular connections to these kids. I guarantee you that, at least for the foreseeable future. But just do it because it's the right thing to do. Facts, we need to achieve our 100% education. Current challenges, we will not get even to 50% of it by 2015. We are short of $105 billion. I don't think this is the barrier. Huh? I think we could easily raise more than $105 billion. It's the governance and it's how do we channelize that. New target, let's do it in 2020. Let's keep it simple. And let's raise the $105 billion. I think that's probably the easiest thing to do. The real challenge will be once we've raised it, how do we actually fundamentally structure it for investment into the right areas. Corporations' role, I think there is direct and indirect. For the benefit of time, I didn't take you through the larger details of the charts, but we can play a role. We did a bit of a back-of-the-envelope calculation, and I believe out of the 105 billion, 20% of that can be raised by the corporation side. That's the private and public sector. 80% obviously needs to be raised by the rich people and rich countries, but 20 should be and can be. So that's a target that we've set it. I'm going to end my presentation with the end of Esther's story. Now, just to tell you, Esther's mother passed away. Her sister, who she was taking care of, was obviously, now these two were alone, and uncle was taking care of both of them, and uncle was hardly taking care of them. They were practically just living off the street. So this is the continuation of what happens to Esther after some right people structured some right areas of money investments and thought leadership into education, and how improved Esther's life. So here's the video that captures it. Yes.
But now, Esther and Tino have been given a new start. They've been taken into the SOS Children's Village in Bindura, about 2 hours away from Harare. Esther has started attending school, something she'd not been able to do for over a year. And she and Tino are settling into their new family life. Like all children in SOS villages, Esther and Tino are encouraged to continue their relationship with their birth families. But they're also provided with what every child needs: food, clothing, love, and support until they grow into independent adults.
I would like 56 million people, children, to be just like Esther, getting out of almost a real question mark in terms of what their life is all about to something which will have a purpose. On which I'll just say repeat what Nelson Mandela said, and I think it's probably very, very powerful. Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. And I don't think there's any other weapon but education. Corporations are not designed to play that role. Corporations can only do a little bit of support. Predominantly, it is the non-corporate world that needs to come in and take support from corporations, but then build it. On this, I just want to again say thank you, and with a round of applause for Anita to pull all this together and help me present this in front of you. So, thank you very much.